Hello, Derryfield. Glad to be with you for another fireside chat. When we had these fireside chats and I looked forward to May, I did not imagine that it would be cold enough to actually have a fire. But it is what it is, and I'm glad that we're here together. Tonight is a really neat plan in that we're going to get to peek inside some Derryfield classrooms. And we're going to see through the eyes of faculty and their students, we're going to see what kind of excellent academics are happening, the kind of personalized education that's happening, and the sense of community that is built within a classroom. As we talked about before, Derryfield was so well positioned for the switch to virtual learning. We've already, as faculty, worked so hard on project-based learning, a lot of which we'll hear about tonight. We've worked on maximizing student potential through giving them greater choice in the kinds of work that they do and what they study. And we've really focused on teaching kids about the skills that are relevant for the world of work. Skills like critical thinking, research, communication, networking, collaboration, and creativity, some of which you'll see tonight through the voices of the students. And for over 8 years, we've been a one-to-one device school where kids have had laptops or iPads as part of the learning experience. And then we've also spent over 8 years as part of the Malone Online Consortium. So we've had the tools and much of the knowledge in place to make this switch to being virtual Derryfield so much smoother. Tonight, we're going to visit with two teachers and their students. I'll ask a few questions, and then we'll go to the chat. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see that there's a little chat button, and you can hit that and then type in questions, and I'll check on those questions and relay those to the teacher or the students. So first, I want to welcome Jim Watt, who is the teacher of Advanced Topics Investment Math. Jim, will you please join us and tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Derryfield and your students?
You bet. Hi, my name is Jim Watt. I teach 3 classes at Derryfield. I teach AT Investment Math, AT Calculus, and Statistics. I'm the head of the math department. I'm the head coach of the girls varsity soccer team, and I teach an X block on beekeeping. The school has helped me attend Cornell to obtain a master's in beekeeping, so I'm in the process of doing that right now. And I'm here tonight to highlight AT Investment Math. And that particular course I designed to answer this question of, hey, when am I ever going to have to use this stuff in the real world? When am I going to have to use math in the real world? And it turns out in finance and in high levels of finance, quite a bit. And the idea was I wanted to help kids kind of learn to code, and I wanted to give them exposure to the concept of AI. And I think I also wanted to give them a leg up. There aren't many high schools that teach their students to write trading algorithms. And in that industry, it's something that's really kind of taking off. Many people, many traders are getting replaced by these algorithm machines. And I didn't want Derryfield students to be intimidated by that. And I wanted them to kind of embrace it and understand it. So that was kind of the goal of the course. And I'm here tonight to highlight particularly Livin Brady's team, their particular leadership in a project that we call Hedge Fund. So, hey Liv, hey Brady, thanks for coming tonight. And let me just talk a little bit about the project, and then I'll display it for folks, and then you guys can answer some questions. Okay, so we designed this fund, this end of term project called Hedge Fund, and it was the culmination of our work in AT Investment Math. And we had 2 classes go head to head. They had to win the business of 4 potential clients, and those clients were our CFO Scott McPherson, our academic dean Ms. Schutz, our dean of innovation Dr. Massoni, and our assistant to the head Ms. Laviano. They came to both presentations and decks, and asked questions and made up their minds of who they were going to pick. And they picked Liv's and Brady's because they just did an outstanding job. So what we're about to do is we're going to watch part of their deck, part of their pitch, and I want you everyone here to understand that the whole class was there, and they kind of effortlessly went back and forth between different teams to field questions effortlessly. They really did a nice job. And there are a couple things I want you to note in this video. I want you to note how the PR algorithm worked. That's really a novel thought from the head algorithm developer, Yash Patel. I've never seen anything. I've been teaching this course for about 7 years, and I've never seen anyone come up with this kind of an idea. And that was just pretty impressive. I want you to note how well this deck is delivered by Brady and Liv. This is a professional presentation that they really tailored to their clients, and it included an embedded phone call, which I've never seen before in a presentation. I thought it was really, really good. And that starred Nina Lee and her host mom. And I want you to just note the performance of the fund. Wow. Okay. And if you want, you can call Liv and Brady to invest with them afterwards. So I'm going to go to their presentation.
So our algorithm developers have been working to code 2 separate algorithms to work together so that our traders can use them in their analysis of the markets. So their algorithms are specifically designed to work in the current market climate of high volatility and high risk because of COVID-19. So using a quantified evaluation of companies' PR value, the algorithms are able to determine how companies have been faring over the last few weeks since the market crash. And they weigh this information with projected earnings and growth data from CNBC to create a really comprehensive and holistic analysis of the markets. So they're working really closely with our trading team, and they're ready to kind of edit their algorithms and continue working efficiently and accurately as the markets kind of continue to evolve in this very interesting time in which we are living. So as you can see on the screen, we started with $1 million in seed funds back in December. And over the course of the winter, they made over $100,000. And so starting this April with $1.1 million in our account, just in those first 2 weeks of April, they made an additional $136,000. So despite the kind of crazy market climate and the high volatility, they've kind of been able to make really positive returns despite all that. And as of that time at the end of last week, every position they were holding was continuing to demonstrate positive returns on investment. So they've proven that they're really capable and talented with an evidently impressive track record.
So I have a question. At the beginning, you talked about the quantifiable PR value of a stock that you're offering. Can you talk about how you quantify the PR value?
Yeah, I can turn it over to our algorithm team to talk more about their kind of process of that. Yash or Jake?
Yeah. So in the PR world, there's this value called the ACE PR value, which is advertising cost equivalence, and that is the industry standard for applying a monetary value to a PR campaign of some sorts. So what we aim to do was take that monetary value, weigh it with other factors such as like how many news reports and articles are being written about that company, and how many of those are positive, and values like that, and weighing that with a standard baseline of, okay, a company that's not talked about a lot would be 0, and doesn't necessarily have a good or bad perception would be a 0 baseline, and we're ranging it from -1 to 1. That just makes the functions involved with the algorithm easier. With 1 being the most positively appealing company in the eyes of the public, because after this coronavirus thing, those companies, we believe, would have more customers supporting them. for their efforts in dealing with this coronavirus. And a lot of people, at least from our observations, would flock to those companies instead of the ones that haven't been treating their employees well. So yeah, using that ACE PR value to monetarily assign a value to that, as well as what these companies' actions are, we generate a value from -1 to 1 based on those factors. But we also weigh this with some more more technical and more like set in stone sorts of measurements in a company's success, such as their potential growth in the future, as well as some other like nitty gritty stuff that I'd love to talk more about if you're willing to. So.
We have been really working hard to make sure that our customer support team will be as effective as possible. So first, we will have a customer feedback form that you would be able to fill out. So you can see here some of the questions. Have we solved any problems you may have? How do you feel about your current portfolio? So you're really able to give us back detailed feedback so we can improve on anything that we need to and hear what you have to say. Next slide. We also will be having weekly phone call or email check-ins. So this is an example of a phone call that you may receive. We can see if this works to play like the first minute or so of it.
Good morning, Heidi. This is Nina Lee from the One School One Fund customer support team. I'm calling in with respect to a brief check-in with you. We have certainly acknowledged that now is a tough time for our investors since there's so much uncertainty. I am here to offer our team's full support to you, and I just want you to know that our team is working even harder during this time to keep your money in place. I'm seeing in your customer record that the last time our team checked in with you, you mentioned that you wish to have your portfolio reorganized, right? But at that point, we only offer portfolio reviews to investors who have stayed with us for at least 1 year. Were you able to get on that?
Not yet, but I just received an email a few days ago saying that you are now offering a portfolio review to all investors. Is that right?
Yes. We have received many investors' feedback saying that they wish to have a portfolio review. So we just opened a monthly portfolio review to all customers in the past week. Even though the market is...
So as you can tell by that phone call, we really have a very great customer support team. And as you could hear that Nina mentioned during that call, we do have a really, really great and exciting customer loyalty program. So for investors who have stayed with the fund for 1 year, which is what Nina mentioned, we will reduce 5% of the management and performance fee, and you will get a monthly portfolio review. For investors who have stayed with the fund for 2 years, we will reduce 15% of management fee and performance fee, and you'll get a bi-weekly portfolio review. And for investors who have stayed with the fund for over 5 years, we'll reduce 25% of the management and performance fees. You will get a weekly portfolio review, a monthly redemption frequency rather than quarterly, and greater informational rights. So as you can tell, it definitely benefits you to stay longer. And the longer that you stay, the less you will pay. So you can see this graph and how the fee reduction will work. So the longer you stay, it will keep decreasing over time, which is really great and exciting.
And that was their sales pitch, or part of it. It actually went on for about 25 more minutes, and it was really impressive. I've highlighted some of the main parts, and they won. They won the A+. So congratulations to Liv and Brady, and we'd love to answer any questions you guys have about our project.
Jim, first, could you explain to us a little bit about what Yasha's math in the project and what made that so distinctive?
Yeah, so no one has, or in any type of algorithm that I've seen, I've never seen a PR quantified in that way. And he was able to do it and use it as a filter. He also combined it with some more traditional techniques like indicators like RSI and MACD and so on. But I think his approach was novel. I've never seen somebody quantify PR like that. And the return of the fund, like we didn't show the equity curve, but I think Liv and Brady did, and I'm pretty sure it was just very, very positive, very, very positively linearly sloped, which was an impressive result for Yash. I've tried to, I'm in contact with a group of people in the investment world, like John Bollinger and who did Bollinger Bands, and Larry Williams, a bunch of traders, I'm eager to kind of see if I can help make a connection between them with Yash. So we'll see how that works.
That's great. So I have a question for Brady and for Liv. This is, clearly a large team you have with a number of different roles. How did you get the role that you had, and what about your role challenged you?
Yeah, so Brady and I obviously were both on the sales team, and what was good about it was the roles weren't like randomly assigned. We kind of had to apply for our jobs almost. So we chose our like top 3. There was a multitude of different roles, and then we had to write a couple of sentences on like why we would be good for that job, why we wanted it, and like how we could like benefit from it and help the hedge fund in that role. So what I liked about that was like Yash is really great at the math and the algorithm development. If I was on that team, we probably wouldn't have won. So you got to choose what you wanted to do based on your personal skill set.
Yeah, just kind of to add on to that, I feel like a lot of times when it's a group project like that, you kind of feel like you're just lost and you don't really know what your role is. But I thought this was really cool, just because you felt like you could kind of find something you were really interested in and capable of, and you were able to just kind of focus in on that. And so I thought that was a cool aspect of the project.
That's clear from the confidence that you both had that you're well suited to your roles. Another thing that's kind of interesting about this is our first year of advanced topics courses, which we replaced every AP course with advanced topics. And in the past, the AP course would culminate in a standardized test. Now our highest level courses are culminating often in projects. And I'm curious about how this project consolidated or expanded your understanding of the material.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was certainly a difficult challenge to face a group project like this in a virtual setting, but I think we definitely were learning along the way, and we kind of figured out how to communicate with each other. And I think that this project was a cool kind of final examination, if you will, just because we were kind of combining lots of different aspects of the class over the course of the whole year and kind of putting it into one project at the end. But like we kind of said, you were able to focus in on kind of one thing you were most interested in or most excited about, so you didn't feel like you were just having to like focus too much on the stuff you didn't understand or the stuff you weren't as excited about. So I thought this was a cool way to examine it.
Yeah, and especially for us, like having to sell this to potential investors, we were tasked with the job of like understanding each specific section and like understanding every single job. So it was like felt like a big, huge review almost of the year. So as we were like putting together the presentation and working on it, we got to see like each different group and apply what we learned throughout the year to that so that we could actually understand what we were selling in order to sell it better.
Fantastic. What were your favorite aspects of the course, Liv and Brady?
I liked sort of the hands-on aspect of it. I liked that we weren't just constantly sitting down, like just getting talked at and learning different things. It was a lot of like trial and error. And we used TradeStation for this class, which is like an online program where you basically have fake money that you can invest. So you get to try different things and invest. And if it goes well, great, that's exciting. And then if it goes poorly, it's okay because it's not real. So that was definitely really fun and exciting.
One part I really liked was in the winter we did trading journals, which is basically like Liv said, we used the TradeStation application, and we were able to kind of research and invest in different companies and kind of write up reports in our trading journals about that. So it was just a cool, like she said, hands-on experience to kind of understand what it's like to actually trade and doing the research and stuff like that.
I have 3 advisees who were in this class, and they were obsessed, constantly checking their portfolio.
It's addictive.
I'm curious also about what courses prepared you for this level.
I would say this is a unique math class. Like Mr. Watt said, like a lot of high schools don't really offer an investment math sort of course. So I would say we were talked about like the equity curve and stuff. So there's some algebra involved in stuff, but it's certainly a unique math class, difficult to compare it to the more traditional like algebra or calculus and stuff.
Yeah, and like Brady mentioned with our trading journals, I feel like in a way almost all of my classes I've taken prepared me for it, because it was, although it's a math class, we did have to do a lot of writing and like different research things online. So I used a lot of knowledge that I've got from like humanities classes. And then for me last year, I took computer science, which I found was really useful just because we were developing different codes and algorithms. So having that just baseline knowledge of how coding works and like different things that you have to do to get a code to work, I found really useful when trying to develop my own code.
That sounds great. Jim, I'm curious about what did you like? What do you like the best about this course?
It's very stimulating. Every day is different because the markets are changing constantly. So it really keeps me fresh as a teacher because I'm constantly reading about it. I'll read an interesting article before class and think, wow, we should really talk about this, or how can we position ourselves so that we can take advantage of certain trends that we're seeing. So I like to learn, and this class is always learning in this class. And if you're not, you're going to get left behind.
How would you say, you've now taught this course for 7 years, you've seen kids actually who took the course go all the way through college and be out in the world. How do you think this course prepares students for life?
Well, in my opinion, really, really well. And I've had one of my former students is actually a 30 under 30 for Forbes magazine. And he didn't develop a financial algorithm. He developed an algorithm that monitored heating systems within homes. So he basically took the idea and ran with it in a different direction, which is great. But he designed a company which is, I think is working its way into all the homes across the world right now. So it's pretty neat.
Fantastic. Hear that, Brady and Liv?
Let's go.
And you guys can sell it. I know you can. Thanks so much. I don't think we have any questions in the chat. So thanks so much, you all, for being with us tonight. Appreciate it.
Okay.
No problem.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
So now I'd like to invite Dr. Brandon Goucher, teacher of our Advanced Topics U.S. History since 1960 course. Hi, Brandon.
Hi, good evening.
How are you?
Doing very well. Yourself?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you. So Brandon, would you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Derryfield?
Oh, sure. So before I came to Derryfield, I did a doctorate in modern history at Fordham University in New York City. And I had the opportunity during that process to be able to teach college classes to freshmen in college, to seniors in college at Fordham, as well as Manhattanville College. Throughout the process of teaching at the college level, I quickly realized how much I love teaching. And the meaning of that for me is not only to engage in content and the discipline, which I love so much, it's the joy of working with kids, being able to play a role in their lives and being able to foster their excitement for discipline, but their ability to think more critically about the future and the complex conundrums facing our society today in the 21st century. That inspired a real love of teaching that brought me to Derryfield, with the joy of being able to engage with kids at that much lengthier much more day to day in a lengthier way throughout classes. At Derryfield, I'm involved in a lot of roles that I'm excited about. I teach a freshman class called Asia, East, and West. I teach a sophomore European history class called Riots, Revolutions, and Reforms. I teach a senior advanced topics class called U.S. History since 1960. I've also taught 8th grade World Justice. In addition, I am the assistant girls varsity soccer coach. I have been the yearbook advisor. I was doing an exploration block this spring with Dr. Mary Carlin, looking at the provenance of historical art. We were going to work with the Korean Museum of Art with kids to ask, how does an art museum begin to ascertain the provenance and historical veracity of an item? And right now I'm also mentoring a senior who's learning to play guitar. All of that for me is really joyful because it's extremely fun, it's extremely rewarding, and it gives me the opportunity to do what I most enjoy, which is working with students and helping inspire a passion for all the things that we should be joyful about intellectually and socially on a day-to-day basis.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And,
so you brought your student, Austin Best?
Well, I had to think about, one of my very favorite students. And what makes Austin such a great student is having taught him in 10th grade Riots, Revolutions, and Reforms, and having him this year again for a senior history class. I think that Austin particularly embodies one of the core values of the history department, the ability to speak and think in a measured fashion, the ability to not only speak articulately, but to engage others who might disagree with you and have the consequence of that being a greater appreciation for two sides of a debate. And I have really admired Austin's intellectual growth throughout the last 3 years and his ability to do that. So I think he really embodies one of the key values of the course.
Thank you.
So Austin, as Dr. Gaucher touched on, one of the essential skills of this course is the ability to engage in reasoned debate. Can you talk about how the course helped you to learn to do that?
Yeah, well, I think to get to that, one of the strengths is definitely the way Dr. Gaucher motivates you to do homework. He's not big on putting point values to home assignments and the reading. What he does instead is he gives us some reading to do, either from textbook or a distinguished author on the topic. And when we come to class the next day, you better know what you've read because you're going to have to talk about it. Dr. Gaucher he breaks us into smaller groups, usually with questions designed to be deeper than just, what happened. He's so intentional with the readings that he gives us. He uses primary documents and first-person perspectives, but this class is really more than just about the event. The way that I like to explain it to myself is that Dr. Gaucher likes to teach, a layer deeper, or sometimes 2 layers deeper than just, the text. We get in discussions about how the author and how they defend their position. And we're really encouraged to use the reading, but also historical context, and more importantly for me, our own personal viewpoints, to create and defend our positions and arguments.
That's great.
The way that I approach this class is that it's teaching me to express my own opinions and perspectives, in an intellectual way, to produce a real conversation. AT-US History with Dr. Gaucher gives us endless practice runs of reasoned debates, to tie it back to that main question, to really prepare us for adult life. This class is a double whammy with relevant history to today and polishing our own skills as college-bound students.
And when you think about your time at Derryfield, what do you think prepared you for this course? Because this is the highest level for history.
Yeah, I think if there's anything that's prepared me most for this class, it's been, the past history classes I've taken with Mr. Burke and Dr. Gaucher and Mr. Tullio last year. I think there's a definite strength of the history department, and the English department is really just Derryfield's curriculum as a whole and its consistency in producing strong writers. I think if there's anything I feel most prepared for moving forward, it's in my essay and paper writing capabilities. Just last week, I turned in my 12-page paper discussing the role of soft power and cultural influence and how that concept affected the Cold War, which was really a conflict of ideologies. And that was such a cool experience for me to dive into that research on something that I didn't really know I was interested in. But tying back to the question, if there's any Derryfield experience that's prepared me for most, I think it's hard to specifically pinpoint one. I mean, I would summarize it as it's really strong history and English departments that are really driven to help the individual succeed.
That's great. Hey, Brandon, I'm curious about how teaching has been in this virtual space.
I have to say that I'm enjoying it more than ever. And I think the main thing that hits home to me signing on to Google Meet to have our classes is how important community is to Derryfield. And it's something we speak about, but it's so nice just to see it lived on a day-to-day basis. And that, looks like so many things and so many specific examples. I would say from the top down, obviously there are dedicated faculty and administrators who care very deeply about these kids and these students, who are very, very focused on building relationships with these kids. But it's such an organic bottom-up thing that it's the things that happen on a daily basis that bring such joy to your life. So to be specific, the senior AT US history class, before embarking on their independent senior projects, made me a TikTok video. And at the end of class, they said, check your email. And they had put together this really elaborate, funny, nice TikTok video that really made me laugh and was really, really a wonderful thing to see. But I think right now online, one of the things I'm particularly enjoying when it comes to the relationships we have with students is how can we carry on and do better than ever? How can we continue to aim high in a way that thinks about what is it possible for these students to achieve? How do students use their relationships with teachers? How do teachers have a vision for these kids that can come together in this symbiotic way and send these kids on a course to, I think, really big things? A specific example of what I mean by that is I have a student who's really interested in politics. He's hardworking, and he's such a thoughtful individual. And so I brought it up to him in the last month. Hey, you could be a Senate page, right? Like, you could be on the Senate floor next to Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz arguing. You could do this, and that could be the start of so much more for you. And here's what I can do. I could help you through your application process. We could have a discussion of what you would need to do. So I think when it comes day to day, the community, which are the little silly things that kids do that build this relationship from the bottom up with teachers and administrators, but it's also the ability to continue on, to aim high. The students aim high in what they want to achieve. And I think the teachers aim high in terms of what these kids can do, because we strongly believe, and I almost laugh as I'm saying it, because I'm listening to Olivia and Brady speak. These kids are going to do big things. And the things that we're doing at Derryfield in the classroom are exciting because I see it coming. I see someone like this student going on to be a U.S. Senator. And when they're in that setting, I hope they'll look back to the Derryfield education and think about is the need to be empathetic, to think in a critical manner, to be articulate, to take a stand for what they think is right and wrong, but to do so with humility. So I'm more excited than ever with what we're doing in the classroom online.
I'm curious, Austin, you were in this course in the fall, you were in this course in the winter, and now spring. Has anything surprised you about this spring?
I don't think anything really surprised me per se. I think Dr. Gaucher's class really translated well into online classes. His teaching style with smaller discussion groups works really well with Zoom and his breakout classes, or breakout rooms, however you'd like to say it. If anything's changed, I think it's been a change in what we're consuming for homework. Definitely in the spring and winter, further back in history, it's been more papers and readings and people's perspectives on these events. But as we move through class units through histories, we're getting closer and closer to today. We're able to watch interviews and debates with the people who live the events we're studying about. So I can't say there's been any surprises. If anything, it's business as usual with the change of scenery.
Wow. Dr. Gaucher, one of the goals of the course is to deepen public engagement in history and in current issues. And I'm curious about how you structured the major projects to lead to that goal.
Well, I'm excited to answer that question because for me, always the nature of the history department, the nature of our discipline is about anything but memorizing facts and doing multiple choice tests and fill in the blank type questions. I feel very, very strongly as a historian and as a history teacher that what we're doing when it comes to the study of history matters tremendously for the here and now. And it matters in terms of not memorizing and learning facts, but coming to appreciate the complexity of the past that promotes a greater humility and perspective and conscientiousness about the immense complexity of wide-ranging variables that make today not always so simple, that makes it really complex. So that's kind of a starting thing for me in the classroom teaching history. One thing that was really exciting this year was the AT US History Capstone Project, which was a historical nuance project. And I'm really interested in putting into action what it is we're learning. So if I'm talking to Austin, we're having a discussion of tax policy, right? And he's speaking about something recent. The question is, well, how can you look at Eisenhower's gross adjusted income tax from the 1950s and think about the perspective that that provides to the present? It doesn't necessarily teach lessons. Lessons are not often going to play out the way you think they are. In the words of Mark Twain, history is, and it's probably apocryphal, but forgive me, I'm going to say it anyway. History is not going to repeat itself as much as it's going to rhyme. So how is what we're looking at in the past in terms of policy, social, political issues going to create a perspective about the present? So this historical nuance project that kids worked on throughout the year asked students to look at a discussion of a political or social issue, and what are the ways that the media or a larger popular source would fit from an even more nuanced perspective, and asking kids to write essays in which they would respond and not necessarily, preach at large about a lesson, because I think those are so problematic, but what is the perspective, the complexity of the past teaches about the complexity of the present? And then asking students to consider, could you publish that? Could you submit that to this larger media outlet, and would they publish it? And now are we getting to a place where 17 and 18-year-old kids are not only discussing history, so to speak, in the abstract, they're actually playing a role. I mean, they're actually influencing a popular conversation. This project culminated with a discussion of if one of the things often so lacking in broader discussions, particularly within the media or online or social media, is nuance and complexity. Nuance and complexity are hard. Those are longer conversations. What's hot, what pops, tends to be a little simpler and appeal to emotion. How do you make nuance go viral? How do you make really thoughtful, conscientious reasoning that is not rooted in, I'm going to convince you of my point and you're going to say I'm right, as much as it's going to spark a discussion of, wow, that's a little more complex than I thought it was. Let's have a back and forth on this. And we may or may not agree, but I know I'm going to benefit from hearing more of your thoughts on this. And ask kids to solve for X on this. How would you make historical nuance go viral in a way that could catch on? My final point on this, that I think is one of the most important things about our community, how do we study the past to have a greater appreciation not only for complexity, but the dignity of individuals? That we can look at the past and see extraordinary and ordinary individuals struggling with really difficult, tumultuous, but also sometimes mundane circumstances. How does that carry over into the present? That when these students are 30 years old, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe in 40 years, that they look at individuals in the present through the lens of, wow, this is another human being who feels. Right now, everyone watching this is staring at a computer screen, but they're all conscious. They're all breathing, they're all living, they're all feeling. And do we have no greater obligation to appreciate that in any setting? That what we say matters, the way we treat people matters? I think history teaches that. I think that's what we're doing in the classroom. And I'm excited, again, to keep using that word, to see that play out for students in 30 years, 40 years, tomorrow, next week, in a way that matters for our community, and it matters for this republic, in a way that transcends every background you can think of.
Mm-hmm. So you also, Brandon, may have always thought you were going to teach at the college level, but you teach now at the independent high school level. And I'm curious about how you think about those two levels of education now.
Well, I'm excited about, or I have a lot of positive things to say about my experience teaching at the college level. And I think it made me a much better teacher. But I would just say straight off the bat, I'm a vastly better teacher at Derryfield. And what I mean by that is being around such gifted colleagues who live and breathe pedagogy, who are thinking constantly, how can we be better? And what does it mean to be better? It means to provide a more empowering experience for our students that's student-led. So I would start by saying I've always loved teaching. I thought teaching at the college level really gave me a unique perspective on what it takes to succeed at the undergraduate level. But my goodness, have I benefited from my colleagues at Derryfield. And I almost laugh as I say that, because I wish everyone could see in our community how much thought goes into the curriculum, how much teachers are engaging and working together And I could speak for an hour, and I won't, don't worry, but I could speak for an hour about the ways that I've benefited from my colleagues in specific ways. But to answer your question, Dr. Carter, I think the biggest thing is that to bring the skills from the college setting in terms of critical thinking, writing, and speaking, and to be teaching students in a manner that I know is going to directly intersect with what they're going to experience at a university like Fordham. And in doing so, helping these kids gain the confidence to know, look, you might go to Harvard next year, you might go to Louisiana State University, you're going to excel, you're going to do well, you're going to raise your hand in the freshman history class, and you're going to do so with the confidence that you're ready for this, you're going to succeed. On, I think, a more basic level day to day, it's knowing what are the type of writing assignments that they're going to encounter. What can they look forward to doing? And it's not only taking 17 and 18-year-olds in a senior class and giving them those assignments. I really, really enjoy giving a play on college level assignments to 14 and 15-year-old kids in Asia, East and West. It's obviously tailored to the age group appropriately with the scaffolding of what they should expect and what they're capable of at that age. But giving them, for instance, a scenario-based test question. Just let's throw away multiple choice tests, just be done forever. And let's provide short essay tests that are more along the lines of the critical thinking that will be demanded of them at institutions at the undergraduate level. Specific example, okay, Asia, East and West, studying modern China in the 20th century. We're looking at the Chinese Civil War. Here's a test question. You're face to face with Chiang Kai-shek. It's 1927. He's about to launch the Shanghai Purge, where he's going to try to wipe out the Chinese Communist Party. What are 3 major historical events that you know will occur over the next 17 years? And what is an argument you would make to Chiang Kai-shek about what is going to unfold in the Chinese Civil War and what might be the most advantageous manner to deal or engage with the Chinese Communist Party in terms of the future stability of China? So to put kids in the driver's seat where when they're taking a test, you got to make an argument, you got to present evidence. How do you bring the history to bear in a way that is real in the moment, that asks them to use it, that they're directly going to see in a sophomore college class where a teacher is going to say, in a way that I've directly experienced and been on the other side of, what do you mean by that? To be challenged by a college professor, and they're not going to flinch.
Fantastic. Well, I'm amazed that there's nobody writing our questions in. I think our questions must have been universally interesting to those who are listening. But I am inspired. Austin, thank you so much for being with us. Brandon, thanks so much for being with us and being such a teacher. We're so have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. So tonight we clearly saw 2 really excellent culminating experiences in upper level independent courses at Derryfield. And in both cases, the students were talking about how in the course they consolidated their knowledge, they were engaged in real world questions, in problem solving. And you can see in the way that all the students were speaking really about how prepared they are for life as a function of their studies at Derryfield. Next week, we're going to keep going, and we're going to talk to Dr. Taylor Moon and her student, Lexi Patron, and they're going to talk about advanced topics biology and a really marvelous and fascinating project that they did within that course. Then we're going to check in at the middle school level with English teacher David Baruti and his student Leah Muniz, who's going to talk, and they're going to talk together about kind of how community is built within an English classroom at the middle school level. So that'll be pretty fascinating as well. So I just want to touch base with you on a couple of things coming up just to keep in mind. I've got my Derryfield Creative Arts vest on to show support for Thursday night's performance. That is our spring play is now taking the form of Derryfield Radio Hour, and our students will be performing War of the Worlds at 6 p.m. So check the website for more information on how to tune into that. In the next couple of weeks, students are going to be moving through, the younger students, we talked to seniors tonight, but students in grades 6 through 11 are going to be working on culminating assessments in many of their courses. to prepare, Monday, June 1st will be a work day for students to work ahead on those culminating projects. Also on June 1st, please plan to attend our fireside chat, which will be, so I previewed that next week's fireside chat is with Dr. Moon and David Baruti, and then June 1st, we'll have a fireside chat again with Lindley Schutz, Dean of Academic Programs, and the two of us will be talking about the vision for the 2021 school year. So that'll be really interesting, and we really encourage you to come for that. Also, please sign up for your family's video conference. This year, our end of school reporting on student progress is going to take a different form. Usually, families get a letter written by the advisor. This year, with our remote learning, we thought it would be better to go for a richer and more personal kind of communication to culminate and wrap up the year. We also really wanted an opportunity for students to learn more about themselves and their own learning, because we know that reflection and about how one learns absolutely makes you a long-term better learner. So your student is going to lead this meeting, and at this video conference, it'll be parents or guardians and the advisor and the student. And the student's going to lead it. We'll help them prepare for it, but it will be a reflection on the student's development through this school year, and then looking ahead to opportunities that the student can make use of for next year. If you need help scheduling, reach out to your school receptionist at the middle school level. That's Andrea Stevenson, and you can just zip her an email. And at the upper school level, it's Diane Wall. Additionally, we will have final video conferences with advisors for seniors. And even though they're coming off of an ISP, so the focus will be really about their growth and development for all the way through their years at Derryfield. So I think that will be, I am personally really looking forward to that time together with the family, with my advisees, and really reflecting on how the student has grown and developed. So thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I hope you found it as fascinating as I do. Have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.